They also mentioned that child trafficking is so profitable because children are used 5 to 10 times a day versus a bag of cocaine is like a one-time sale for that day. And you have that child for X amount of years and maybe even into their teenage years by these pimps to continue profiting from, and it's just disgusting. And it seems to me, for some reason, a big draw is America. A lot of people in America allow this to happen. We're also big consumers of, obviously, the drug trade. Can you go into a little bit about the statistics in there and how out of hand this has gotten?
What we have found is the stats are kind of all over the map. Nobody really has hard stats on it, including the Center of Missing and Exploited Children, because this is a very dark and heinous crime. And when I first learned about it, I realized what's going on with child trafficking inside the continental United States is it is a covert operation run at industrial scale. And when I say industrial scale, before we abandoned our border 3 years ago, the estimate for child trafficking annual revenue was 38 to 50 billion dollars. 50 then the 38, that means it exceeds all pro sports combined in its annual revenue. So there's a lot of children changing hands. And for what reason? You know, we know that there's organ harvesting, we know that there's the sex trade, but I don't see that the level of perversion of a full-grown man who would prefer a child over a full-grown female adult would it exceed the rates that we're seeing. It just doesn't make any rational sense to me. In our investigations, we're finding out the different layers of this crime, all bad for the children, all of it bad. But you have everything from what people refer to as the global elite, the high net worth people that run much of the global banking and so forth, all the way down to MS-13 and local gangbangers selling them out of clapped out hotel rooms and abandoned motels, and even parents selling their own children in the United States as well as third world nations, and even children learning to sell themselves because it makes them somehow feel empowered.
Wow.
It's a wide range of it. It's really what's going on. So the stats are really, there's a wide possibility of how you put the numbers to it, depending on how you're measuring it.
Sure. So you're saying that the demand, there is obviously a demand for sex child trafficking, but it's also not just sales child trafficking. It's also maybe potential slave labor, organs, or even, just human trafficking together. It's combined into very big aspects or categories. So it's not just a sex problem. It's also a problem of potentially organ harvesting and so forth.
Well, we deal with the aspects of it that we can prove in a court of law. 26 arrests on child predators with a 100% conviction rate, and another 17 warrants that should be being in the pipeline to be served. So when predators come to our sting operations, there's typically an ad put out. We run joint operations with federal and local law enforcement. Or even just a new profile of some social media profile. The predators will come running for that child in a way that would turn your stomach. I don't care where you've been in the world. When you see the level of vulgarity, the nature of these conversations, and it will go from an initial, hi, how are you, straight into the next sentence is something disgusting. Oh, these predators are compelled very strongly by something to get at this child and do whatever they have in mind to do to the child. So the compulsion is very, very strong. It's unlike any other thing I've seen, other than, a desperate crack addict that just has to have that next hit.
Do you think they're mentally ill, Craig? Like, would you put them in that category, or would you say that there's some type of trauma that maybe occurred with these predators, especially the ones that you've caught? Because I have spoken to criminal lawyers before, and sadly, some of them had to defend some of these predators through public defenders' offices and so forth, where they get assigned this case. And they say that these people feel like they can't help themselves in some regard. I don't know if this is obviously the truth. I think it's completely disgusting and shows lack of control for anything. But why do you think there's such a demand, or why do you think there's such a like drive to lure a child, to take advantage of a helpless child? I mean, it's bad enough selling, say, meth and seeing a family be destroyed, but to take a little kid that is singing and that's joyful and just completely take the soul out of them, and to the point where they're just not a person, it's just, I mean, I like you said, you've seen some things being in the DEVGRU unit, but this is just flat out evil. Is I guess the way I would put it. Why do you think that is?
Interesting that you would use that word, because anybody who deals with this for any period of time or at any depth comes back with that word. And I think we use that word for that which is clearly not natural and organic. You don't find any other species just totally traumatizing and systematically eradicating their own offspring like humans are doing right now. It's nothing that hasn't happened throughout human history, but it seems to ebb and flow according to the spirituality of the nation that's dealing with this. So, you know, what we're finding is a lot of people who are traumatized in their youth and they're abused do tend to be abusers and traumatize others rather than being a beacon of light and hope and a protector. I celebrate those who do overcome it and decide very deliberately to be a mama bear or papa bear and say, hey, no more, not on my watch, not around me. I'm going to be one that disrupts this chain of events and brings about a more positive direction and outcome. But when a friend of mine from the CIA that let me know that child trafficking in northern Houston, North Harris County had become the hottest epicenter of child trafficking in the continental United States due to the major highways that flow through there from the border, and you got major east, west, north, and south highways. We've got a lot of oil money. There's every manner of potential, and so he goes, "Yeah, this is what's going on here." And I couldn't reconcile that with our culture. Some healthy, pro-America, you know, there were churches on every corner.
In Texas.
Yeah, southern Texas. I mean, we love our Jesus and our USA and our football, and pretty what I would think was a wholesome culture. And he said, well, that's just the thing. This is run right under people's noses because they don't even know to look for it. And so it's like, and I thought that's okay. That's a covert operation. Then I understand that. I've worked in the intelligence community, the highest level of counterterrorism, and the State Department as well, and diplomatic community, and I started realizing the fingerprints of government involvement on this, and I thought, well, nothing runs at this scale in the U.S. without the government getting its hands in it and wanting their cut. So you cannot open a lemonade stand without, you know, being throttled by some representative of the government, because they want that tax money, baby. They want to make sure you pay. They do with it, right? They're sending it to other foreign nation states, tens of billions at a time, and squandering it, wasting it. They don't want to answer for that, but boy, they want it. If you make $10, they're going to expect their cut. How is it that we have anywhere from 38 to 50, even upwards to $100 billion a year criminal enterprise, and the government is magically unaware, which is the exact opposite of every other crime? So I realized, okay, this is a covert operation. It's domestic, government run at the very highest levels, and it is run at industrial scale. So there's a lot of top cover. And I started learning that district attorneys are paid. Their campaigns are funded by a certain globalist billionaire who subscribes to global Marxism, under which there is no United States, there is no God. The state becomes everything to them. And that model, he wants that. And their great reset that they talk about, and you're dealing in a financial realm, you'll understand it involves breaking the economy of the United States so that people are desperate enough to say, please, government, give us a solution. They're like, yeah, we have this Marxist model. Yeah, we're going to call it democratic socialism, because they've always called communism democratic socialism throughout history before they bring it in. So it's like democratic socialism is like the candy of a rape van, and you take the candy, you go inside, and it's a guerrilla rape van of global Marxism. They're like, yeah, now welcome to here's your wake up call. And so dealing with that and watching these district attorneys funded by this globalist billionaire with the agreement, he says, I'll fund you and get you into that seat, but in that seat, you're going to not prosecute certain categories of harmful crimes. Child trafficking and child rape are some of those crimes. George Soros does not want those crimes punished. Where does that leave you and me if we have children in that city or that district or that state?
It's insane. And even Elon Musk said, hey, Soros realized that he could get a lot more for his buck at local government, right? Local district attorneys, local state assemblymen and so forth, versus going all the way up to the top, where maybe it takes a lot more money to convince someone with this corruption. And me being from Russia, I was a young boy when I came here. I'm no stranger to hearing stories of communism and how the government is the most important thing. Rat on your brother, give up your mom and dad. We know better for you. Don't have more food. Rely on us for everything, and all of that collapses, right? And it's not sustainable, and it's very dangerous. And you're absolutely right. All this money being sent, going back to that as well. I said it before, on the podcast. All this money being sent out. Where is it going? Who's handling it? Who's receiving it? It's all being washed, in my opinion. And there's another podcaster you may want to look up, Michael Francis. He was an ex mafia guy who's doing now YouTube, but he talks about, he's like, hey, the government's like a mob. They're even worse. They have all the power. They have everything. They can do whatever they want. They could control whatever you want. And going back to your point, how does an operation of so many children, so many people pass through without the government going, hey, this is okay, or it's not okay, or what should we stop? And it's probably at the highest level, like you said.